in this. Do you know what happens in an abortion? I mean, maybe you don't. They literally will break the back of the baby's skull, right? They will insert to the back a syringe of cyanide poisoning until the baby no longer. I mean, this is one of the most gruesome things. Everyone who's pro-choice, in my opinion, has a moral obligation to watch a video of an abortion just to know kind of what you're supporting. It's so beyond inexplicable.
When can we do that procedure, right? If there's still a heartbeat.
I don't think we should ever do that procedure.
Some people are born male, but just present themselves as female because that's who they feel they are.
What is a female? Not at the post office, like gender, like, sex, male, female.
Hello everyone, I have this video from Charlie where he's approached by this liberal, and the way things develop and wrap up is shocking. I'll be offering my perspective as we watch. Let's dive into it.
Alright, so I would like to ask you about, for abortions, right? How do we explain to those who are for it, how do we explain that even, I don't know if you believe this or not, but in terms of like a rape or unintentional or really unconsented pregnancies, can we say that we should still be anti-abortion in that scenario?
Yes.
What's your grounds for that? And how would I explain it to someone else?
Sure, it's a good question. Let's say I have two ultrasounds here. One is an ultrasound of a baby from a loving marriage. The other one is a baby conceived in rape. Which one is which?
We can't exactly tell.
So they're both human beings?
Right.
They both deserve human rights.
Okay. But then what is if someone pushes back against with the idea... Do I... Oh. What is if someone pushes back with the idea that now, in terms of the mother, right, one of them was willingly conceived while the other one was a forced conceived?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair argument. The question then should be, when, if ever, in your moral universe, is it okay to do something evil after an evil act to try to make that evil act correct?
But how about in terms of, what if we're in the position of the mother, and she is, I don't want to take the risk of illness, death, or whatever to have this child.
Sure, so it's a little bit of a false choice because they're acting as if the termination of the pregnancy will have no consequences or costs. A lot of women that get abortions have regret. Women die when they get abortions. They have a lot of their health issues. It's not just like getting a haircut. So it's a little bit of a false choice. But we come after it from a very basic moral argument. There are two lives involved. There's a little life and a grown life. And no one has the right to eliminate a human life in utero, period.
So then, at that point, now we're forcing someone to do something that they never consented to, never wanted to do. How isn't this violating their human autonomy?
Well, again, but eliminating the human being would also violate the baby's autonomy too, wouldn't it?
Well, then we would have to ask, right? Maybe in future years we will have the technology to be able to extract a fetus and grow a fetus outside of the uterus, but given our state of medicine right now, we do not have that.
Sure. I mean, but again, no one is delighting or rejoicing in these circumstances. I mean, it's a terrible situation. I want to reiterate that. But you have a unspeakably difficult choice that is very morally, clear though, which is that you don't eliminate a human being because an awful action happened.
Are you saying that as someone who can get... Well, I guess my pushback against that would be then if we say that it's entirely wrong, right? We're sacrificing someone's choice for someone's life, which is admirable, but...
It's also morally correct. You don't get to murder someone smaller than you if it makes your life difficult.
That's the problem with a lot of kids nowadays. They tend to form their opinions based on far-left media and liberal ideology without fully considering a wide range of perspectives or even critically analyzing the information they are exposed to. It's alarming how many young people today are heavily influenced by media outlets. It's very shocking, ladies and gentlemen. social media platforms, and ideologies that often promote a one-sided narrative. How sad is that? Rather than encouraging independent thought, these sources frequently present a narrow, filtered version of reality. And ultimately, many kids are observing these messages without questioning their accuracy or even motives. How sad.
But then we can't exactly see the fetus does not have autonomy. It cannot exist outside of the uterus
Doesn't
quite
matter.
yet.
Human dignity does not correlate with dependency. So dignity and dependency are not two things corrected. You have human dignity because you're a human being, not because how dependent you are.
So would you say that viability happens when
Viability is irrelevant.
So then at what point does human life begin then?
Conception.
Conception, not even sperm or
That's conception.
eggs? Okay.
That's conception. That's
Well, I
when
just wanted to get
when an
that
egg is fertilized. When an egg is fertilized, human life begins.
Okay, so then when it's still a single cell with both chromosomes pairings, right?
Well, it creates new DNA, right? So once the sperm and egg meet, literally something magical and inexplicable happens, where new DNA is formed.
Okay, and then what happens? So then,
it attaches to the uterine wall, and I can go through the whole gestational process. But.
All right, so then we have the basis of human life. Now, what is if within the uterus, now that life is still alive, but is unable to proceed to, like, let's say, actual birth due to some medical situation that has happened?
Well, has the baby died without outside intervention or with outside intervention?
Let's say that
is it an ectopic pregnancy, or what? You got to be very clear about the type of.
The amniotic sac has ruptured.
Yeah, that's an ectopic pregnancy, right? So yeah, you can remove the baby from that situation without aborting it. The baby will die outside of the womb, but you do not have to abort it. So those are two different things. The removal of a baby is what's called the cesarean section. You can do that very early on. Now, ectopic pregnancy is very real. It's very terrible, but you can solve an ectopic pregnancy outside of having an abortion.
But, okay, so then what creates an abortion? Is it the heartbeat, the removal of the fetus? What exactly is that?
I don't want to go too deep in this. Do you know what happens in an abortion? I mean, maybe you don't. They literally will break the back of the baby's skull, right? They will insert to the back a syringe of cyanide poisoning until the baby no longer. I mean, this is one of the most gruesome things. Everyone who's pro-choice, in my opinion, has a moral obligation to watch a video of an abortion just to know kind of what you're supporting. It's so beyond inexplicable. But yeah, look, really quick, what's the final question on this? Because I want to keep moving.
Oh, sure. So you didn't really finish the question of when can we do that procedure, right? If there's still a heartbeat.
I don't think we should ever do that procedure.
What happens if, like, now the mother's life is going to die in, like, the next 15 minutes, but the baby is still having a heartbeat? What do we do at that point?
It depends on, again, I don't want to speak to every specific. Some OBGYNs say abortion is never medically necessary. I'm not a professional enough to say that. But it depends how far advanced the woman is. If she's past 22 weeks, have a cesarean section. Try to have the baby live in NICU.
So there are situations where abortions are okay, right?
Well, no, I'm not even saying okay. Again, I don't know enough about some OBGYNs that they can defend their statement here. They will say abortion is never medically necessary. I'll allow them to defend that. I don't know enough about the details there to be able to say that.
So you're saying that you do not have a statement of whether abortions can never be true or always?
It is murder. Whether or not an OBGYN can prove to me, of which there's a lot of debate, it is ever medically necessary. So take, for example, if a baby is 26 weeks and the baby's, the mom's life is in danger, deliver the baby by C-section. Don't terminate the baby. Does that make sense?
Yes,
the baby can survive outside of the womb.
Okay, at that point, yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Society without religion, everything would become acceptable to those who choose to live by their own standards, without the checks and balances provided by religious teachings that emphasize love, respect, compassion, and accountability. The understanding of right and wrong would no longer be anchored in universal principles. Just think about it. Or of the belief of a higher power or a moral giver, lawgiver. Just think about it. Instead, it would be entirely subjective, with each individual deciding what actions are justified or ethical based on their own personal feelings or desires. Can you imagine that? I know to some people, they may view this as a freedom of expression, but it will lead to moral chaos. It will lead to moral chaos, as different people could easily justify harmful behavior simply because it aligns with their own self-interest.
And so I think that the challenge is that the injunction was to allow people to continue to serve while the courts played out, right? So there would be no harm done to these folks, giving the courts an opportunity to work through these issues so people wouldn't lose their jobs. Now they're going to wake up tomorrow without jobs. They can't just come back in for serving 22 years, waiting for this court case to work its way through for 6, 9 months, 2 years.
So you hadn't, so was there a prohibition on you transitioning while you were in the military?
Back in that time, there was a ban against serving if you were, the don't ask, don't tell policy.
This was in the mid-90s.
This was in the mid-90s. Yeah.
So, but let me, can I ask you a question? Because I think this is relevant. You know, Elena was serving, left because of this policy. How many people is it okay to lose who are competent, who are doing their jobs because for reasons like that? I mean, at the time, she could have been a gay or lesbian, and it probably would have been the same result as well. I mean, I think that's why ultimately they ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
I mean, I think
discrimination.
I think ultimately the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Defense have to decide comprehensively about troop levels, troop readiness, and unit cohesion. And overall recruitment. They're actually quite happy with recruitment right now.
But that has there's never been a military standard that transgender people have not met. So the military standards have not been lowered for people who are transgender. And I think that's the issue here. And the courts that have looked at this issue in depth have said this is pure animus, that there is no evidence of this. So if you actually take the rhetoric out of it and look at the issue at its heart, all the courts say the same thing. So I think that's the travesty here.
I believe the president has the constitutional right to do this, and I also think you have the constitutional right to make your case on it, and everybody's going to be in court about it, and I think you should continue to make your case.
But you also talked about unit cohesion, and that's exactly the same kind of argument that they made against integrating the military when Harry Truman did it. I'm sorry, it's the same argument. Okay. It's the same.
I mean, is she wrong about that, though? Okay. I mean, she is right about that.
Did not want to serve
I'm aware.
White people didn't want to serve black people because of unit cohesion. So now you're saying gay people shouldn't serve with straight people.
We only have a couple seconds. Share, Michael. I see that you're frustrated that she made that argument, but is she wrong that unit cohesion was used as an excuse to keep the military segregated for a long time?
I think we should
and also don't ask, don't tell when it comes to discriminating against gay and lesbian people.
We should focus on the issue at hand. That's what I think.
Same argument.
But no, we should focus on the issue at hand. I don't know why we keep going to bringing up race. Let's just focus on the issue at hand.
Look, it's race, sexual orientation. We've seen this twice, right? In 2 major junctures for the military. I'm just wondering if she is drawing parallels here between the arguments that are being made to maintain this policy.
I reject those parallels. That's my answer. I reject the parallels. I think they're ludicrous parallels.
Do you feel like you had a choice in your life as to what you were going to do? Or no, of course not.
No.
The same way that I didn't have a choice to be born who I was, the same way you didn't have a choice to be born who you were. So why do we get exclusions and she doesn't?
I didn't say that Elena should be excluded.
Okay, why, under this president's policy,
my opinion here is let it work itself through the court system.
And I have no problem with that, but just don't fire people while it's working through the courts. That's what these injunctions were doing, was letting it work through the courts. And the Supreme Court, I think, really just delegitimized itself even further today. And I think that's a challenge for all of this country when we don't have the checks and balances of the courts, checking the executive power, and Congress checking the executive power, and all of those things. Because at the end of the day, right now in the military, you can be a white supremacist, a known white supremacist, and serve in this military, but you cannot be transgender and serve in this military. That's a fact.
By publicly acknowledging and living out our faith, we show the world that we are committed to something greater than personal success or self-interest. Yes, we demonstrate that our lives are guided by values that are transcend worldly concerns. This acknowledgement, ladies and gentlemen, also brings us into alignment with the Creator's purpose for our lives, which is love, to serve, to uplift others, salvation for humanity. The teachings of Jesus emphasize the importance of living a life of humility, kindness, and selflessness, You see, qualities that build strong, compassionate society. In summary, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ is an incredibly worthwhile mission. It brings about transformation, fosters love, hope, justice, truth, and brings about God's divine command. It grants eternal significance, brings deep joy to those who embrace it. Ultimately, it's the greatest gift we can offer, bringing lasting change to individuals and communities alike, and reflecting God's love and purpose for the world, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click on the next one. Don't forget to like, to comment, and subscribe. I'll see you again next time. Bye bye for now.